Welcome back to the Stryker Perspective. Unless you're new, then, well, just welcome. So this is Stryker's Perspective, and we're talking about the NES Classic today, coming out on November 11th. Yeah, I know, it's one of those shows that they just show you game footage instead of actually showing you stuff of the thing. I'm using Upload Studio on Xbox One, so I can't use footage of the product in question unless I decide to reload this into Movie Maker afterwards. I might do that. My game footage doesn't look as good, but I'll actually have stuff that belongs from the commercial or, you know, for the NES thing. But hey, how about that episode 200? You like that? Because technically this video comes out after episode 200. Unless you're on YouTube, then you still got a number of episodes to go before you see that. So sorry about that, but that's just what it is. But hey, we're looking at it today. I had a couple of questions from you guys. So what does the NES Classic mean to the industry? Ignore the Star Wars footage there. So yeah, I might try to I try to find quiet gameplay, but it doesn't work. I'm not really sure if you're going to be hearing Gears of War footage in the background while I'm actually showing you the actual footage of the NES Classic, but you know it is what it is. So we'll see how I end up editing this thing together. But yeah, the NES Classic. You guys know it, right? You're grabbing every little piece of footage you can. I mean, it looks great. I mean, 30 NES Classic games. And these are really good games too. I mean, Nintendo could have just thrown together like all of its black box games, some Zeldas, you know, and Mario and stuff that we've all kind of played, but they actually got third-party stuff in here, and that's pretty impressive. I mean, they don't have the original Contra, but they got Super C, so it's kind of like there's always the possibility, and that's actually one thing I want to talk about. Because they got things like Mega Man 2 in there, you know, not just number 1. So there's a few games like particularly absent, or significantly absent, you could say, I guess. Obviously, you know, when they're working with Konami and whatnot, Konami's probably like, okay, well, we'll give you this game and this game for this price, but you can't have this, you know, that can't be included. So they probably do package deals like this that, you know, yeah, you can use this. But there's some stuff missing, like the original Double Dragon. We get Double Dragon 2, which, don't get me wrong, is pretty good. And there's really no reason why they couldn't throw number 3 in there, right? But, you know, like I said, it's a package deal probably coming from some of these companies. And it's Castlevania 2, but not 1, right? And but no Castlevania 3, or is it 1 and 2? Right, I got the thing in front of me, but like I said, there's games that are missing here that you know, they could be pretty cool. And quite honestly, all of these games are incredibly awesome. You know, aside from perhaps Balloon Fight. You know, you guys have probably had enough Balloon Fight given to you over the course of, you know, the last several years from other means. Donkey Kong Jr. Math. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's just Donkey Kong Jr. That's actually a pretty good one. I'm sorry. Ice Climber. Ice Climber might not be that exciting. Bubble Bobble is a good game and a fun game, especially in 2-player. But I can understand if you're going to skip over that and play some of the other ones. But yeah, I know. The things that people are worried about is the fact that it's, you know, obviously it's HDMI, that's great. The things that people are worried about is the fact that, you know, it's a standalone product, you can't plug games into it, you can't blah, blah, blah. You know, that's what Nintendo decided, you know. The thing you gotta remember, though, is that, you know, this is a product that Nintendo, even though there might be a lot of demand for it, you know, from us hardcore, or they might think this is actually going to work really good for the casual gamers, of course. This is the first time Nintendo's doing something like this ever. You know, where they're putting in 30 games. Mind you, 30 with a lot of really good versions. I mean, this completely blows away too the versions that were even on their own Wii Shop. The emulation is spot on in all of these. The colors are so much more vivid, and so much more care is taken care of this than what we got on the Wii Shop channel and the Wii U channel. You know, there's comparison videos out there. Go take a look. Not to mention that there's also 4 save states, you know, for every game. They don't call them that because the average consumer doesn't know what a friggin' save state is. But that's what they are. You can save at any point in the game and come back to it, and that's more than generous, quite honestly, for, you know, for most of these games. 4 slots, that's going to be great, you know. If you got more than one kid, you know, each kid gets to have, you know, his own slot, and then dad and mom can still have their own, you know, when it comes to a game they really want. So that stuff is great. It's awesome. And yeah, there's nothing there that's expandable in a sense. Of course, you could argue that that's not going to stop modders from doing something, but the main thing is, though, is that you guys should be friggin' ecstatic. If this thing sells well, and I'm seriously, I mean, if it sells really, really well, Nintendo's going to step back and be like, you know what? You know, we could do another one of these things, but make it, like, expandable. You know, make it so that we can hook it up to the internet. We just didn't want to do it the first time, of course, because who knows, right? I mean, you never know if a product is going to sell, and you don't want to go to a huge, huge expense. But if this thing goes over gangbusters, imagine what Nintendo could do. I mean, I'm talking like throwing in, probably not 100 games, but you're talking about like throwing in all the 30 games that we've got here, throwing in perhaps, you know, even some of the ones that they worked on for the Famicom Classic system, which, yeah, that's also a thing too. And there's like 8 games on there that are Japanese only. We got the original Final Fantasy, but I mean, imagine, well, we never did technically have another NES one, but I mean, it just opens up the door for so many other possibilities. I mean, you know, we could get, you know, some games that are, you know, missing on this list. We could get, you know, entire collections. We could get, you know, Nintendo could release a 10-game pack, you know, for infinity. And I'm serious. You know, they could release, you know, 10 games every quarter, you know, which would basically expand your system by 40 games, you know, throughout the year, you know, on the sequel console. You know, they could basically give you all the games from the original at a slightly lower price, and then, you know, like, say 50, you know, or 45, you know, and then dole out, like, you know, like a $20 pack of 10 games. And, you know, you can maybe even pick and choose what games you want if it's on a digital storefront, right? This could be a very cool thing, a very huge thing, and a very YouTube-friendly kind of thing, because you'll be able to record footage from these games, you know, being on HDMI. They're going to look great. And you can do Let's Plays on them. This is a huge thing, because just imagine if this goes over well and they want to do a Super Nintendo Classic Edition. You know, if they could even... I don't know if they could do Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 controller is relatively hard to emulate without... Well, they could use their other... They got their controller that's got two sticks on it, right? The classic controller from the Wii. So I suppose that could be something that emulates it. But I mean, this is relatively a huge thing. You know, if there's a market out there for this and Nintendo grabs a hold of it, this could be huge. It could be an extremely good thing for us. We could get a lot of Nintendo Classic games in better condition than we've ever seen them before, and running on official Nintendo emulators, so that we really don't lose much. So, yeah, I'm really excited. This could be... it's going to be great. It's a great place, and there's just so much content on this thing alone, even though it is kind of more aimed at the casual audience. But this is Nintendo actually, you know, putting their brand of... Not their brand of seal. putting their seal of quality on it. You know, I've got a couple of reviews for the, what is it, the Genesis, the little mini Genesis console on Amazon. You know, the one that displays like 40 games or 80 games. I can't remember what it's called, but they're sold at like Walmart and Safe Right stores. You've probably seen it. It's a load of crap. The emulation is off by like 5 to 7%. It kind of depends. The sound is weird and whatnot. And Sega, you know, licensed a Chinese company called At Games to produce this for them. And it's a pretty crappy little piece of kit. You know, around $30 or so. The controllers are okay. They have some wireless controllers that quite honestly just don't work very well. You can plug in other cartridges to it, but you can't save. There's just no save file for it, even on the battery backup games themselves. You know, so it's basically you can't save your game progress no matter what. I mean, it's a shoddy little piece that's been sold in third world countries. And eventually they ended up marketing it to the US at one point. I think in 2009 or 2012 they decided to go a little heavier on the marketing and actually put like Sega characters on the front of the box and like Virtua Fighter, you know, trying to remember, hey, this is Sega. But, you know, Sega is just the publisher. They're the ones that are really developing Ad Games. But it's never really been a good piece of kit. In fact, it's so crappy, that's why it's sold in Safe Right and Walgreens stores. Walmart doesn't carry, you know, shoddy stuff like that. They don't want to deal with the returns and customers being unhappy with it. But this is from Nintendo. This thing really could make some other companies like Sega and Atari, if Atari is even around anymore. I thought the second group went bankrupt. But yeah, they could really do really good emulation and show, you know, good quality products, you know, controllers that actually are of the same build quality as the originals, and that us customers will pay for it if you give us something that's better than friggin' AV cables, because that's what At Games has done with its Genesis stuff. All of that is AV cables all the way through. It looks like crap, but Nintendo comes out with HDMI. Hey, who knows what this could mean? We just need to buy it and see what's going to happen. But I'm real excited. Okay, so that's basically the segment. Now as a side note, I've looked at some of the Kinect, you know, plus video kind of things, and I could actually show up on camera during these segments. Just forgive me for now. I really feel like I should lose some weight and whatnot. I really don't want to show up on camera at the moment. I know. I mean, there's plenty of, you know, semi-overweight guys and whatnot on YouTube, and I just don't want to present myself like that. I want you guys to see, hey, like, this is a pretty good-looking guy, you know, and I just don't want to have, you know, this extra bit of weight on me. So I want to work on that a little bit. You know, please just understand that for now. Let me get that done. I don't have a camera anyway, and quite honestly, the place where I live, it doesn't really give me room to use Kinect. Without going into too much detail, I just don't got the room to really do it in a comfortable way. But yeah, let me work on some things. Maybe I can actually get like a picture-in-picture thing kind of going on for Let's Plays, where you'll see my reactions. It'll work a little bit better, but I gotta figure out, you know, where I'm gonna put things, and whatnot in order to do that. But yeah, episode 200, you guys would have seen that by now on upload. A lot of work went into that. I don't want to say anything more about that. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. Like I said, I'll probably fast track this Stryker Perspective video onto YouTube, which means it's actually going to beat the other dozen episodes I have. But the NES Classic, I mean, it deserves it. I really want people to get excited for this thing. Not so much on what it can do or what it can't do, but on what the next version could do, or what maybe, you know, who's ever got the TurboGrafx 16 licenses and stuff, who's ever got their hands on some of their hardware and whatnot, maybe NEC could make one of their own. I mean, can you imagine that? Like 30 hard-to-find TurboGrafx 16 games, and depending on, you know, what they use, they could put the CD games on there too, man. I mean, an 8 gig flash, you know, drive wouldn't be much at all. They could just internally put that in, and that would easily fit, well, even 4 gigs. I mean, you know, but they could put the CD games in there and make them work well, you know, for the first time. You know, officially licensed, you know, CD-based emulator, you know, working, you know, from a company from 93. You know, the other CD games have been like that on the PlayStation storefront, so, you know, why not this company? You know, they're a little bit smaller, but hopefully they'll see the value of it too. So yeah, no matter what, I'm excited. Sure, I don't want them to be sold out, but just Nintendo, make enough of them, please. This thing's pretty cool.